if you can go back a year before this crazy year, and just the acclaim you were receiving for the last record, and I remember it, and all the magazines and reviews and shows, and just what last year was like for you as an artist and what that meant to you.
It was cool. The process for recording and releasing this music is something that I just think about and ruminate about. So I was thinking about what we were going to do before we recorded, before we released it. So it was nice what I was excited for was just people's reactions, how they would enjoy or not enjoy the music, what they like, what they don't like about the music. I was just interested in how it was received, regardless if it was positive or negative. And it's a nice feeling to obviously to have it positively received. If anything, it's encouraging. It encouraged me to continue with that group. I guess a lot of positives came out of it, just to take in the moment, and I've just been really appreciative of everything.
Yeah, and how did that inform the next record after having gone through that experience?
I mean, I was just more encouraged to really focus on the same thing I've been focusing on, really developing a band, a group sound, and ideology, and being on the same page, and us trying to, figure out what we're doing, what we're trying to play, and what we're trying to do. And I feel like just since that record dropped, this past year, we've been developing more and more, playing a lot more, touring the record. And so in turn, we developed more as an ensemble. And I feel like this record is simply a culmination of that, where a look into where we are at this point in time.
Yeah, and it's such a beautiful record, and it's gorgeous sounding record, and the conversations you're having with musicians are just so well done. If you can put into words just those conversations with this band and how special that was on this record.
I mean, the big thing I talk about with them and with anybody is just the literal communication. I'm really big on treating everything we're doing as a conversation within the group. When we're taught jazz in schools, we're taught like, you play the head, you play the melody, and then you come and you take your solos, and that sounds very like separate, when in reality we're 4 or 5, 3, 2, however many musicians coming together, doing something together, conversing together. And so I'm really big on just the aspect of the teamwork and the communication that goes into creating the music. And so something we talk about all the time is just having conversation and developing that conversation and listening to each other, staying focused on what everybody's doing, so that at any given point in time, we're able to go wherever somebody may deem the music should go, so that we're all in tune with each other. So that's a main conversation that went into the record, especially.
Mm-hmm. Talk about having vibes at the center of an album and being a vibraphonist band leader. Every few years, or less than that, someone really kind of breaks out, but it's not the most common thing for someone to become star necessarily. I can list you better than I do, but there's been a handful. We can name the classics, and I've seen a few of them, and the guys I'm talking about. But for you to kind of break out and kind of be there and on that list now as a young guy, what does that mean to you in terms of winning awards and having your name mentioned along with these guys? What does that mean to you at this point?
It's funny because the vibraphone isn't my favorite instrument. My favorites are the piano and the drums, but I guess just I always from day one wanted to have my own voice on the instrument. So I like the aspect of my voice being heard basically and recognized, because I wasn't the biggest fan of how people were playing the vibraphone. One of my favorite vibraphonists, Milt Jackson, was the first one I started getting into, and I was told he slowed the motor on the vibraphone down to match the vibrato of the human voice, and that's something that I really recognized, and I fell in love with that idea, and just something I'm trying to do for my sound is emulate the human voice. It's hard to do with cold aluminum bars and a big metal frame. So the goal has just been to make the instrument as human as possible, try to breathe life into it, and try to give it some sort of human character. And so that's just the fact that that's getting noticed. And also in this day and age, there are a lot more vibraphonists now, which is cool. So there are a lot, at least from my peers, there are a lot of inspiration that I'm getting for the instrument itself, and just the fresh blood for the instrument is encouraging, and it goes into everything we can do on the instrument and everything that we're learning from each other, which is really pushing the instrument forward for the first time. And I don't want to say first time in history, but there are a lot of vibraphonists that that today than before,
Talk about the importance of pushing forward, like you said, as someone who's very conscious of the past, obviously, and the heroes and people that have inspired you, but the importance of pushing forward. And I was talking to Christian Scott the other day, and he shows me the great horns that he develops and how he works with technology and makes these cool things, and just being able to, and having fun with the vibraphone like that. How important is it to be conscious of the past, but to totally create your own lane?
I think it's, as you say, it's important to be conscious of the past, because the same as you're studying anything, this is an art, this is a science. So you want to have some sort of fundamental understanding of the history of whatever it is that you're working with, so that once you have that information, you can manipulate it however you need to be able to create whatever it is that needs to be expressed by you. So for me, it's taking all the music that I was listening to from all the greats that we learned from and listened to, and letting that inform what I already have inside of me. So a big thing were like unique voices: Thelonious Monk, Miles Davis, John Coltrane, Charlie Parker. They were unique voices on their instruments. So I took that, and for me, I was like, well, how do I have my unique voice? I noticed that they have a unique voice, and I don't want to sound like them. I want to do what they did. So it was like, well, okay, now how do I develop a unique voice? Well, I grew up in the church. That sound is always going to be a part of my playing. I'm not going to shy away from that. I want to have a fundamental understanding of bebop to be able to succeed in that setting when it's musically necessary. And then from there, more compositionally, the church is in there. I like a lot of what is happening in contemporary jazz today, in contemporary music, and social and improvised music. So I take all these different parts and add it to what's already here. And I think when musicians do that, that is how you push forward, by being cognizant of the past and using everything you're learning from that to inform yourself. Because we are today, we are the present, and as we go on, that is the future. So it's taking that past, putting it with yourself, and using that to create something. I wouldn't say everything is original, but everything is personal. You take whatever information and then you're expressing it. As long as you're not just simply regurgitating the information that you're learning, if you're honestly able to organically implement that into what we're doing and what we're creating, then that is how you push forward. That's how you evolve the music. That is how new things do happen. And that in turn feeds into other people's ideas. And then this becomes another layer that's just going to keep going 20, 30, 40, 50 years from now. People will use what's happening today to inform what they do moving forward in the future.
Love that, yeah. Talk about your shows. It's been a little while since you've probably done a real show. But you're a young guy. When you look out at your crowd, you probably have a young audience. What it's like seeing young people inspired by you, inspired by your music, continuing the tradition of improvised music and this creative music. It must be a refreshing, wonderful thing to see kids come out to your shows.
It is. I mean, I see a lot of cats like my age, and so I don't ever want to. I don't separate myself from them. It's just like I see kids my age, and then they tell me like how important my music might be to them, or how much they love it, and I'm like, well, dang, that's cool. That's cool. It's good to know that young people like the music, because that is I feel like it's a lie that a lot of people say. It's like young people don't like jazz. Young people don't like this music. I don't think it's true. I think young people don't like something stagnant that's focused on only one part of the history of the music, when there is so much involved. And so like we were talking about, all I'm doing is taking that, adding it to myself and expressing that. And I hope that in some way, just people my age and older are relating to that. and I think that's what it is. It's a lot of people my age can relate to the music, and that's all I hope for.
Yeah. Was that you in Central Park this week? Was that?
Yeah, I was there this past Sunday.
That's awesome. So you're getting out there and doing some kind of performance.
Mm-hmm.
Was that cool? Was it different? Have you done a lot of that? Is that a new thing again to be out there?
That was. I've done a couple of, I guess, different gigs. Some live streaming things inside. I did a rooftop thing for 10 people with a friend, but that was my first like outdoor thing with that many people. I did something up in the East Hamptons at a Duck Creek art farm, and that was for about 50 people spaced out.
Okay.
But this was like in the city, in the middle of everybody going around, and it was cool to be in that energy. It was definitely refreshing to see people come out. More people could come out. You could see people, social distance and everything. So it was nice to feel that. I want to say raw energy of New York.
Yeah. How energized and how optimistic does that make you about what could be next? You feel us hopefully coming back?
I feel optimistic. How we recover from the virus and from this pandemic is one thing, but I think for music, as artists, we're gonna have artists in general, not just music. Artists are going to keep expressing. In times of turmoil, art always keeps going, and really, realistically, great art tends to come from this struggle.
How different, how cool, how nice to have a great new record out in the middle of all this. It makes me happy to have the music, and it's helpful for me, as I'm sure it's helpful for many people. It's just like for you to put out such a great album, but in such a strange time.
It's interesting. I mean, I like the fact that, for the most part, people have been staying home and getting into more music. So it's a good time for recorded music because that's really all people have at this point. Recorded music, online things, there are no live gigs. So I think in that regard, if people are willing to spend money on the music, even if you even need to, now with streaming nowadays, but people have access to the music. And so when the lockdown first started and I knew some people were releasing CDs, I just weren't too sure. I was kind of curious how they were going to be received because it's such a dark time in the country and in the world. So I know some people felt like it didn't really feel right to be releasing music, but realistically, I think it's what people need. Music is an escape into another world, and also just insight on this world through another lens. So I think I found that people still want the music and really appreciate people putting the music out. So in that sense, and just from how the announcement has been received on social media, I can tell that people still want the music, and it's good to know that through all of this.
Yeah, well, I certainly appreciate it, as I know your fans and new fans are going to appreciate this year. So thank you for the music.
Oh, it's my pleasure.
Thank you for watching. If you want more extra, hit the subscribe button and the bell so you'll never miss a video.